Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome in, guys. What's cracking, Rick?
What's going on?
It has been an interesting season, but I feel like when you get this far, it's almost like relaxing.
Yeah,
it's finally over, and then like I get a month in, and I'm like, I need fantasy football again.
I think it's nice to be without it until we get to like probably March. March I'll be back, but it's like 2-month break for me.
I am excited to talk about the NFL draft in.
Oh yeah, this year we'll have an extra special. We'll be very well versed in the quarterback scouting department.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've known this many quarterbacks or watched this many quarterbacks pre-draft scouting.
At this point, in early January,
I've watched
since 2020,
McCarthy,
probably,
Nix,
right?
Penix, obviously Drake May, Caleb Williams. So,
have you seen Jaden Daniels?
Yes, I've seen Jaden Daniels. I forgot about him. Holy crap! Is that 6 quarterbacks or 5?
It's 6.
Yeah, a lot of quarterbacks. I think
we're
Bo
talking
Nix
like
is going to
first
be
3
like
rounds.
Davis Mills.
Bo Nix, yeah, I can see. He might be okay.
Penix is going to be Teddy Bridgewater. I know it. I feel
yeah. I feel like we won't get into this, but I have my opinions on some of the later guys.
Yeah.
But I still haven't even I've dug into it, but I haven't done like the full head first dive into it.
Yeah.
That I want to do.
I'm
waiting for the NFL season to be over for that.
Oh, you're trying to be
February.
patient.
Yeah, I'm waiting for February. Probably February is when I'll do all that.
I gotta say, if you watched any of the national championship game though, and you saw, dude, I was like every time, literally the first 2 drives were big rushing touchdowns for Michigan.
Yep.
And I was like, I would scream, "Oh, there goes Blake Corum!" And then it was this Alexander guy. It was their backup. Broke off 2 huge runs. Their backup broke off 2 huge runs for touchdowns to start the national championship.
Are they really good running backs, or does Michigan have like a elite offensive line?
They have an elite offensive line, but Corum is crazy good. He's very good at football. I've watched a lot of Michigan games this year, so he's very good. He was worse this year than he was last year. He was.
Oh, really?
His
what's his name?
Blake Corum. Corum.
Is he going to be going in the draft this year?
Yeah. This year was his final year. I think he's a sophomore.
Is he already?
He's a senior. He's a senior. Jonathan Brooks.
He's 23. I like that.
According to PFF, Jonathan Brooks is the RB1, but I think Corum could easily go first off the board. So it's going to be close between those guys once you start scouting.
He's old though.
Jonathan
I don't like
Brooks
that for the NFL. No, Blake Corum.
Corum. Oh, you know what? The guy that scored the 2 touchdowns in the national championship, his name was Donovan Edwards, and he is also available.
Ooh.
He is the 5th running back listed, or 4th.
He might get drafted higher because
he's
of age.
I don't even know what his friggin' age is. It doesn't. Why is it not listing his age? Well, anyway,
dude, Blake Corum in high school, Corum.
Yep.
I was hoping I'd get put on this guy, but it's just turning me off. Ran a 4.6 in high school.
We'll see at the combine, I guess, but he looked really good this year. Yeah, so that's interesting. But anyway, welcome in. We are going to jump right in to the news and notes that we have for this weekend. It's just going to be coach firings. So on Tuesdays from now on, because you guys have not had this, and we're changing things up here in the offseason. We're going to do some different shows this year, okay?
Okay.
We're going to do different show structure. See how this thing works out. It's more clickbaity titles, so you all will listen and watch. You can come back to this and be like, "This."
We love the clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait, baby. But anyway, so let's jump right into the news for the week. We'll only do news on Tuesdays because we record this every other day. But if we have news on the other show, we'll get to it. But anyway, it's mostly just coach firings for this particular week. If you're following along with the NFL postseason, on I guess on Thursday shows we can probably get into a little bit of what's going on in the postseason and who's winning, losing, and make some predictions. But yeah, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of the injuries for that. I did that all NFL season. We're on to 24, guys.
24. Yes, 2020. Wow, the fantasy season is over, bro.
Yeah.
Officially,
you didn't win any
NFL
championships.
Yeah, I had a tough year, but I'll get into it, man, because
it's time.
I mean, we were wrong about some things, but I feel like this year was injury. Like, this is probably the worst year for injuries overall, not just like for fantasy relevant players, but like fantasy relevant players, but things that would affect your whole team, like a quarterback.
Yep.
I think this is the most quarterback injuries we've had since I've been watching the NFL.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is, I mean, that's saying a lot.
I think we need to factor in like the injuries far more in our decision process for NFL for fantasy drafts next year, because we just assume they're going to play every game.
Yeah, but some of the you can't assume Kirk Cousins is
going to blow his or
Joe Burrow. Or I mean, I guess you could have seen Joe Burrow.
5-second man over there, Aaron Rodgers.
Right. I mean, some of those are some of the injuries were just Anthony Richardson. I mean, you might be able to assume that because he's his play style, but at the same time, it's like it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. I think for skill positions, you can probably do it, but quarterbacks, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's jump into some news around the league. We have coach firings. Mike Vrabel got dumped today. We saw that. We probably should work backwards. The guys that have been fired already: Josh McDaniels, Brandon Staley, Frank Reich, Carolina, Los Angeles Chargers, and Las Vegas Raiders. So those positions are most likely open. What the Raiders should do, is bring back that guy that was coaching them at the end of the season, please and thank you. They did this last time, and their team
I don't think he's with the Raiders anymore.
What?
Yeah, I think he's I don't know where he is, but I'm gonna look it up.
No, I mean the guy.
I don't remember his name.
This guy that took over for Josh McDaniels this time. Yeah, keep him.
Yeah.
Keep him.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, the Chargers and the Panthers and the Raiders are going to be looking for quarterbacks, but a couple new spots opened up. Vrabel is one of them, so the Tennessee Titans now have an open spot. Arthur Smith was dumped. Thank God. There's always going to be a coach we hate, but that guy was a special type of loser.
Yeah, he deserved to.
Did you see at the end of the game?
Yeah, I will say, do you know why he was upset at the end of the game?
Why?
I don't think that was necessarily the worst because it was 42-17, and they went into kneel formation, and then he got up from the kneel, handed it off to Jamal Williams at the goal line, and they scored a touchdown. They faked the kneel to score again with 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
That's kind of douchebaggy by the Saints. So I
get
him
Jamal
being
a
upset.
Touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have reacted like that, but I understand why Arthur Smith would be mad in that situation.
I think that's loser
But his
mentality.
usage of Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan Robinson and his aura of being I'm greater than you. Why would you even doubt me for using you don't know football. I know football. His attitude towards the media and the fan bases and just all of that. That's what I hate about him.
It's almost the same as Bill Belichick's, but Belichick earned it.
Yeah, right.
So
big difference there.
He hasn't. Arthur Smith hasn't won any Super Bowls or.
We can't trash talk him too much though, because there's a 20% chance he'll be our offensive coordinator.
Get out of here with that. But Titans opened up with Vrabel, Arthur Smith with the Falcons, and then Ron Rivera, which is not too surprising. I kind of felt
that was the least surprising one. I think that was going to happen, guaranteed to happen.
I knew it was going to happen week 2.
There was reports 2 weeks ago, I think, that were saying that it was likely going to be his last season with the Commanders.
Assumption for me is that Eric Bieniemy takes over as that head coaching position there.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, their offense was okay.
Not at the end of the season. It was buns at the end of the season.
No, at the end of the season it fell apart. But they had moments on offense. I don't think Bieniemy was great, but I don't think he was bad either.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's good enough to get the head coach job though.
No, I mean, we'll see.
But he might be a good fit with Caleb.
Bieniemy is like going to be a hot commodity. Now,
Yeah.
out of all these teams, quick question. It was actually interesting, speaking about the national championship. At the end of the national championship, John Harbaugh, who everyone has been assuming is going to the NFL.
Jim
Harbaugh, who everyone was assuming was going to the NFL, had an interview after the game when everything calmed down last night, and they were asking him questions, and he was like, I'm going to start practices, I think, a month later in Ann Arbor because we won the national championship, and everyone was like, does it mean you're going to be around? And then he laughed and said, sure. Everyone's like, all right,
interesting.
Does that mean he's leaving or not? If Jim Harbaugh, whoa, I can't do this for the NFL. Maybe we could just leave him in college football. But Jim Harbaugh, if he comes to the NFL, which team is he most likely to sign with?
That is interesting. I think the Bears would be in play. I know they still have Eberflus, but he has connections with the Bears. He used to play for the Bears, so I think that would be an option. The Chargers, I think, would be an option.
Mm-hmm.
But I think out of these landing spots, it probably would be the Chargers, I would say.
Chargers are probably the smartest, but the Raiders are apparently very much in on him.
I could see that
they
too.
They want him very badly.
I've heard people, because if you were a head coach, I think a local radio show did this today. If you were a head coach and you're looking at the spots available, where would you want to go?
Chargers.
I would probably agree with you. But like a lot of people say the Raiders, and I'm like, that might be the worst spot. That's good because it's Las Vegas and they have good facilities, and I get all that, which you can, but it's old. Devontae Adams is like 31. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a top pick. Yeah, Josh Jacobs is their other best player. He's a running back who's like 26.
I take it back.
Max Crosby's a beast, but he's old too. Like I do not like the Raiders roster and where it's like I think they're in for a rebuild.
Okay.
But
yeah, that makes sense. But anyway.
Underrated though, the Falcons. I think that's a good landing spot.
Oh, well, yeah, they got a lot of talent. They just need to plug in.
They need a quarterback.
Yeah.
But
all right, there's some news from around the league in terms of the coach hirings and firings from Black Monday and Gray Tuesday, I guess is what you can call it. I don't know. Hopefully Bill Belichick gets added to this list. But we're just waiting. We're waiting over here in New England for the good news. But anyway, all right, let's move to the main portion of the show, which is a recap of the 2023 season. For this Tuesday, next Tuesday, we're going to recap two main positions, wide receivers and running backs, so the skill positions. Talk about guys that finished in the top 12, top 24, some surprising finishes, some guys that maybe it's the final countdown on their career, and just go through what happened this year. I wish we had our. I think I have my draft. Can you find your draft rankings?
Oh, from beginning of the year?
Yeah. I have them right. I have mine right in front. Nope, this is this year's draft rankings.
Let me look. Where would you find yours? Is it on Face Pros?
Yeah, but they don't have them. I already looked.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just started with the expert consensus draft rankings over here. But anyway, yeah. So we'll break that down. You want to get into it, Rick? Ready to go?
Yeah, we can do that.
Ready to get cooking? All right. Congratulations if you won your fantasy championship. On to 2024. It has been quite an interesting ride for the season, and there has been some shocking players to jump up into the top 10, and some not so shocking players. So we'll go through it. Your wide receiver one in fantasy football this year, CeeDee Lamb.
Your guy.
367.
There was a lot of doubts. I remember seeing like some Cowboy media. It wasn't Cowboy media. It was people that like hate the Cowboys, but they were like doubting CeeDee Lamb, and I was like, they're like, oh, I don't know if he's a real wide receiver one.
Mm-hmm.
He's a real wide receiver one.
Yeah, apparently he is.
He's the wide receiver.
So like I'm kind of interested because the early part of the season, weeks 1 through 6, before the bye week, he had 11, 25, 10, 14, 8, and then 18. So he was I would say that's wide receiver one production. After the bye, from week 8 on is when he started to lose it. Just to give you some numbers as to how far ahead CeeDee Lamb was from the rest of the pack from weeks 8 to 17. So that was from his bye week. He scored 41, 28, 39, 16, 17, 32, 19, 18, 25, and 40. Very good. 27 points per game was his average. The next closest guy in that stretch was Tyreek Hill with 21. The second highest scoring guy was Amon-Ra St. Brown with 180. CeeDee Lamb over that stretch finished with 278 fantasy points. So he was 2 points shy of being 100 points off the guy in second.
Where do you have him ranked next year?
I'm going to have him ranked like wide receiver, probably 4. For being real.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Probably safe. 4 or 5.
I had him, I think, this year as wide receiver 5. I probably would say 4. I think Lamb will be behind Jefferson.
And Jamar Chase and probably Tyreek.
Chase probably. I don't know. He might be higher than Chase and Hill.
I don't know about Chase.
He won't be higher than Jefferson.
If Chase ends up going behind CeeDee Lamb, I think that's a steal of a century. I love that.
Chase with, what was it? Burrow played the first 6 or 7 weeks?
Yes.
He was good, but he wasn't.
No, the whole Bengals offense was down. I told you that.
Okay. We'll see.
But Tyreek Hill did average 23.7 fantasy points over the course of the whole season. And I think his fantasy points were far more consistent than CeeDee Lamb's. So
he was good from week 1 to week 18.
Yeah, because CeeDee had 23 fantasy points, Tyreek Hill at 23. So Hill had 44, 15, 30, 10, 32, 28, 25, 25, 12, 30, 25, 32, 10, 18, 13. So he was consistently good, didn't really have a game under 10 points. So Tyreek,
that's how you know you're elite level.
I'm nervous about
Tyreek. Worst games are 10 points.
I'm nervous about Tyreek's age because he finished 2, by the way, 355 fantasy points. I'm nervous about. We'll transition into Tyreek. I'm nervous about Tyreek's age going into next year, but there were some serious considerations for me while the season was going on that if I had the opportunity to take him wide receiver 1 or 2 next year, that I would do it.
Yeah, he'll be 30.
That scares me.
Which for a pure, he's not pure speed, but for a speed guy, that's usually where the drop off comes.
Yeah, because when he loses his wiggle
elite
and his speed, yeah, I think that's where he kind of is going to.
I think he'll still be top 5 next year, though.
Yeah, but
so if you're sitting there and it's Jefferson and Lamb and Chase, is gone, you're sitting there at 4. I would probably take Tyreek.
Yeah. So, do you think he goes off the board as wide receiver 3 or 4?
He will probably honestly, because people don't think the way we do, he's probably going to be wide receiver 2 behind Jefferson.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Age is going to be the one thing that might push him down my draft rankings, but I still would be totally okay with taking him. I'm just nervous that a Devontae Adams drop off would hit him,
right?
But
I think 30 is usually because Adams is 31, right?
Yeah,
I think at age 30 you can still have a very, very good year as a wide receiver.
Yeah. All right, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown finishes with 303 fantasy points. So he was about 52 off of Tyreek Hill on the season.
Yep.
He did miss a game, but he only averaged 20 fantasy points per game.
Still very good.
He was fantastic. Wide receiver 3. Where does he fall in the threshold of wide receiver?
Probably wide receiver 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6 or 7. I just ripped.
Is that a first round pick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most likely. And PPR, yeah, probably. He might slip to the second round because I think he's not explosive. He's just.
That's a great pick in the second round, just this year.
Yeah, he's just a PPR machine. So. But he's not sexy. Tyreek Hill can take friggin' a slant, 75 yards.
But he's a beast, though. He's a beast.
Yeah.
You're getting 18 to 20 points every single week when it's in your lineup.
So, 4th was AJ Brown, really good. I think AJ
Are you
Brown,
looking through 7? You're looking through 17 weeks.
17 weeks. So I was gonna.
Okay, I was looking through 18. So there's a different. The
What
order
did he
is
score in
different.
week 18?
But what is it?
What did he score in week 18? AJ.
AJ Brown.
Yeah.
He had -1 fantasy point.
All right, so I wanted to go through this really quick because early part of the season through weeks 1 through 9 before their bye week, AJ Brown was the wide receiver 2 in fantasy football behind Tyreek Hill. So
Yeah.
first half of the season, really, he was in that position. If you look at the back half of the season after his bye week from week 11 on, AJ Brown drops all the way down, and this is in conjunction with Philly being 1-5 and their offense really not working in the second half of the season. But AJ Brown drops all the way down to wide receiver 24, has 86 fantasy points. So while he finished as wide receiver 1, it was an extremely inconsistent extremely inconsistent wide receiver 4 finish. I unfortunately had Stephon Diggs and AJ Brown.
Yeah, man, you had bad luck
And their playoff schedule, ready, 10, 14, 9.
Pick the two
AJ
guys
Brown.
that just decided to tank at the end of the year.
Diggs 8, 7, and 7 at the end of the season. But we'll get to Diggs in a second. So yeah, AJ Brown, I really don't. He's going to be the one receiver that I'm not really sure what to do with because I do.
Would you
think
take him over Amon-Ra? It's funny because we had this debate this year and they finished very similar to each other.
AJ Brown is not a high volume receiver, but he's extremely explosive. And like at any point in the game, at any point in the season, he can kind of just go off. Whereas I like looking at Amon-Ra's numbers this year. He had a couple 30-point games, but he's not a guy that's going to like Hill had a 40-point game. CeeDee Lamb had a 40-point game. He had a 39 and a 40-point game. Like, I don't know that AJ Brown's going to hit something like that.
Hit 38.
Amon-Ra Brown is going to hit something like that, 40 points in a game. I think he's just really good underneath, and he gets a lot of catches, and that, in fantasy football drives consistency. So if you want a more consistent receiver, Amon-Ra is probably good. But if you want a superstar, like I'm probably gonna get you a good total on a week-to-week basis, but I also can go off. It's probably AJ Brown. I would take AJ Brown in that instance, but it's close.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
5 was Puka Nacua.
Puka, dude.
Shock of the season.
I remember us talking like he was like wide receiver 3, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cooper Kupp came back, and we're like, okay, he's probably gonna, still finish as a wide receiver 1, but he'll probably finish in like wide receiver 10 to 12 range.
Yeah.
He ended up having still a really good year, even when Cooper Kupp came back.
Oh, he was. Fantastic.
He wasn't on pace that he was, but he was still like, probably if you go back and look, he's probably still like top 7 or 8.
So like
even with Kupp in the lineup.
To me, a lot of these guys, the next couple guys that we'll talk about, are probably because they're the old guard. They probably will fall off a little bit, and we'll get to them in a second. But you have the elite guys, which I would say are Lamb Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown. I put Stephen Diggs, Jamar Chase, and our boy Justin Jefferson in that conversation. So those guys would all be in this. Like, they're definitely, was that 7 receivers? They're all definitely.
That's your first round.
That's your first round. That's your top 7 receivers. Like, you get any one of those guys, you're good. The question for me is, where does Puka fall into that conversation? Because he was top 5 this year in his rookie season. Like, this is his first year. A breakout very similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown, where he gets a load of targets. He's not overly explosive as a receiver, but he just puts himself in the right position and makes a lot of plays. Very good receiver, but where does he fall in that 7? Does he end up being the 8th guy on the back end, or do people start looking at him as a top 5 to 4 or 5 wide receiver?
I don't think he should be in that category yet. I think there's still some guys that would go over him. And I would say he's probably going to be a late 2nd round pick. Well, maybe not late. I'll probably say just 2nd round for now, which is still really good. Mm-hmm. And he's still very good. I think he's kind of like where Amon-Ra was last year or going into this year. It was a good comparison. I think he's probably going to be like wide receiver, probably like 10 or 11 in the offseason, but we'll see how it plays out. He definitely impressed, though.
I do like Puka, and I can't really have him as a breakout because he already did it, so like he's just going to be a guy. Right. But I I like Puka for next year, and the reason why is because I'm leaning in the direction that Cooper Kupp is going to retire.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think he might
I would be
retire.
nervous though. Is Stafford? How many years does Stafford have left of being a
Well,
high
yeah, I
level
mean, for
quarterback?
Dynasty, sell that guy like he had bad cold.
Yeah,
Let's sell him now. Yeah, no, that's fair. But for this year, I mean, I think Matt Stafford will be back next year, so Puka will be fine for
yeah.
redraft. All right, next two guys. We got Keenan Allen, Mike Evans. Keenan Allen finished with 278, and Mike Evans finished with 277. Allen was actually on pace. He was on a monstrous pace, 21.5 fantasy points per game, which would have made him the wide receiver 3 on the season. In fact, if you go from weeks 1 to 14 for him, he was wide receiver 3 on the season. So the big thing for Keenan Allen, last 3 weeks of the season, he did not play at all. He was out weeks 15, 16, and 17. They also lost Justin Herbert kind of down that stretch. So playoffs. If you had Keenan Allen, you were like, dang it.
Yeah.
But he was one of the best wide receivers in fantasy football this year. He really was. Got a lot of people to at least the fantasy playoffs with some of his performances. He was like an early second-round pick, I believe. So if you got him, you got basically for majority of the fantasy regular season a top 3 wide receiver, which was fantastic. Big thing for Keenan is he's an old man.
He is.
I don't
And
think
I
it
know
can last.
I have brought this up before, and I think you had some pushback on it. But personally, just watching the games, he's still very good. But he doesn't get open like he used to. Like he knows what to do. He's like Travis Kelce at this point. Like he can play against the zone.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to find those soft spots. He doesn't really beat a whole lot of man coverage past like 8 yards.
Yep.
So I don't know. Like, is his production gonna fall off because of that? There's a good chance it might. But there's also a good chance that he still has a good year at age 32,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like Adam Thielen did this year, because who else is Herbert going to throw the ball to?
Yep.
I mean, Mike Williams will come back, but he's injury prone. Quentin Johnston had a N'Keal Harry-esque season, so he might be a major bust.
Mm-hmm.
It might only be Keenan Allen unless they bring someone else in. So we'll see how it goes, but obviously going forward, it's going to be hard to draft Keenan Allen too high.
Yeah. I would say my rankings would probably put Keenan anywhere between 15 and 20.
Yeah.
That might be where I end up putting him. And then Mike Evans with 277. He averaged 17.3 points per game, so he was right where he needed to be. But
Mr. 1,000 yards.
Yeah, dude, he just consistently on a week-to-week basis was really good. He was a wide receiver 1 on the season, so if you had him as your wide receiver 1, you got a lot of really good performances out of him. But he is also old, and this year I felt like it was going to be the year that he declined. He finished as wide receiver 7. I just don't think it can continue. I don't think it's sustainable at this point. So He's going to be probably one of my biggest like busts for next year. I'll pound the table for that one because I just don't think it's going to last. He might still be a wide receiver 2 on the low end at best, but this
year was very surprising because I agreed with you, but it was partly because of the Tom Brady thing with Brady gone, and Baker comes in or Kyle Trask. It was like, he can't do this, but Baker ended up having a great year.
Mm-hmm.
So if Baker comes back and has another great year, there's a chance that Mike Evans could still produce. But I do generally agree with you. I think Evans will probably be a bust. I also think he's going to get hyped up very high in drafts because of the season that he had. And I think of the reputation of the player and all that stuff. So I could see him being like a 3rd round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be hard to take him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, hey, breakout of the year for the fantasy champions was Garrett Wilson. He got hurt. I mean, he didn't get hurt. Well, kind of did get hurt, but
he may as well have gotten hurt.
It was one of the guys we loved was DJ Moore all offseason. Yeah. While his season was inconsistent, what else do you expect from a wide receiver? 8. His totals on the season: 4, 16, 13, 27, 49, 10, 13, 9, 5, 10, 22, 22, 26, 9, 4, and 30. So very inconsistent. Very, very inconsistent. Had 200.
Dude, I've been on the DJ Moore train for what, like 3 years now? He finally
finished? He finally did it. Yeah, I mean, he caught more than 4 touchdowns in the season. So there's that. But he was 2 points off of the wide receiver 6. So, had he scored just, caught one more pass for 10 yards, wide receiver 6, different conversation over there. But he was fantastic this year. I don't know. So there's a lot of things going on with the Bears for 24. They could draft Caleb Williams, which I think would be very positive for DJ Moore because he would still be the wide receiver 1 on the team. With Caleb Williams, who I think is a far better passer than Justin Fields is. If they go in the direction of taking Marvin Harrison Jr., trading down and taking Marvin Harrison Jr., there would be a thought in my mind that
that has to hurt DJ
that
Moore,
has to hurt DJ
right?
Moore. So just keep an eye on the offseason as a whole because I don't know yet if DJ Moore can continue. If he's fine by himself, I would probably rank him like anywhere between 10 and 14. So
yeah.
He's not a guy that
I'd probably
excites
agree.
me, though, because I don't think he can be in the same conversation as some of the top 6, 7 guys.
Well, we're
that
talking
enjoy.
about wide receiver 10. That's probably second round. Well, that is a second round pick.
Yeah, mid-second round. Yeah.
That kind of scares me.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying.
I loved DJ Moore when he was a 4th or 5th round pick.
He might
Second
slip
round
into
is a little-
He might slip into the 3rd.
Yeah.
But as a second, like if you're going 0 wide receiver, you take 2 receivers in the first 2 rounds. 0 running back, I mean. Or
Right.
you don't even have to go 0 running back. You can take a running back in the 3rd if you want. But you go 2 receivers in the first 2 rounds and you get Tyreek Hill and then you get DJ Moore. I think you're fine with that. You're probably okay with that.
Yeah.
If it
makes me nervous, though.
Yeah.
That does make me nervous.
9, we had Stephon Diggs, 258 fantasy points. Now, he played every game. Want to hear his numbers from week 10 to 17?
Yeah.
You know what? No, yeah, 10 from 17. All right, I was reading the wrong numbers. 10 to 17. He's so bad. I don't even know what to do with Stephon Diggs next year. Like this trend was not like a 2-3 week span where he just had a couple of bad games. This was terrible. Like he was bad. Wide receiver 48 over that stretch. Fantasy point finishes from weeks 10 to 17, 6, 19, bye week 6, 8, 7, 7. 9 fantasy points.
First 9 weeks of the season, he was wide receiver 3. And he was
trust me, I know.
Yeah.
9 fantasy points per game in the second half of the season.
Yeah. That's
So what do you do with Diggs?
I don't know. He had 16 points this week in week 18. Or 15 points.
Yay.
But
4.4.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely because this is also 2 years in a row of this. I think it's different reasonings because I mean this year they fired their offense coordinator. They go to is it Joe Brady?
Yeah.
And he changes their offense completely. They go from a pass heavy team to a run heavy team, and that clearly hurts Stephon Diggs. And going into next year, they're probably going to continue this trend and run the ball a decent amount.
I think the reason why they're running the ball right now is because Josh Allen is a gunslinger, and he likes to throw passes that are
they don't trust him.
Not the smartest thing. And I think they're just dialing it back a little bit to reduce the turnovers. I think that's what they're doing. I think if you can – and because they had Joe Brady, they're obviously not installing a new offensive system, but I think it was just a midseason change that they had to make.
Yeah.
In order to get themselves into the playoffs and have a shot. I think next year they'll find a way to call some more conservative pass plays, get him to make his reads better and be a little bit less aggressive. But yeah, so I think ultimately I think Diggs would be fine, but I think he's probably going to be like the 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th ranked receiver. And he'll probably go in that range too. Maybe early 2nd round, late 1st.
Yeah.
But he scares the crap out of me. I'm never drafting him again.
You think he's going to go first round?
Yeah.
I don't think he's a first round pick.
If Diggs is late 2nd round, that's going to make me like vomit a little bit.
Because you could get Hill.
I've told myself
Diggs.
I drafted him this year. I'm burned, and I shouldn't allow myself to. Like I said this before, we talked about this on our draft tip show. Like don't go into the draft and remember last year.
This is what I'll say about Diggs.
But 3 years in a row being in the playoffs and sucking eggs, like I need performance in the playoffs. I can't keep doing this, Diggs. So see you later.
Ever since he's been in Buffalo, I've been very high on him. Wanted on my team every year. Didn't draft him this year, but I drafted him the year before, and it was a great pick.
Mm-hmm.
Got him in the second round. He finished as a top 5 receiver, or top 6.
Yep.
But it's going to be hard for me to draft him this year too, because I know what you just said about Joe Brady and the way they're running the offense is just to dial back the turnovers, but I think that can very easily carry into next year.
Yeah.
Very easily. And I do still think he'll be better than what he was at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But is he going to be the Stephon Diggs we know? I don't know. It's going to be hard. So if he ends up still being a late first or early second round pick, it's going to be hard for me to do it.
Yeah. I
If
can't
he's a
do
late
it.
second round pick, early third round pick, I'll probably be in.
If I'm in the third round and
And he's there, dude, you have to.
I know,
have
but I
to.
don't want to.
Then trade the pick to me.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
I'll draft him and then trade him to you, and we can talk.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll treat him like a top 5 wide receiver, though.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, all right. And then Jamar Chase finishes with 256. He did miss 1 week in week 16, so still impressive. I mean, he was good. Averaged 17 fantasy points a game. And he was still very good.
Still a top 10 quarterback or top 10 running back with a backup quarterback.
Top 10 wide receiver.
Top 10 receiver. Jeez.
Yeah, dude.
Pulling at you.
my freaking my ADD brain over here. So he was very good. I still think he's a top 3, 4, 5 receiver in fantasy football with Joe Burrow at quarterback. Clearly he is based on what he did. Like early, the funny thing is that most of his busts were with Joe Burrow early in the season. So, or at least half
his
of
first 2 weeks.
So well, not half of them, but he did have a tough end of the season when Joe Burrow left. And
his last 3 games were not good.
Yeah, 5, 10, 7. So, you obviously need better from Jamar Chase, but I think with Burrow on the field, it obviously makes things.
He did have a 52-point week in week 5 with Burrow. See, there's maybe like Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. I don't even know if Lamb could get 50, and then Chase. Like I feel like Chase, Jefferson, Hill are the only 3 guys that could get 50 points.
I think Lamb could do it.
Maybe.
All right, and then Devontae Adams at 249, so he keeps his wide receiver 1 streak alive when he's healthy.
He does.
It was a bad 249 at that, but
yeah, 15.6 points a game.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think that's totally surprising. I think a lot because he was still drafted in the top 12 at wide receiver, correct?
Yeah, I think he was like wide receiver 9 or 10.
This is another guy though with Mike Evans where I'm kind of like, old guard, last final ride.
Yeah.
I think he'll still be able to put up fantasy points like I've said in the past, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as good. So we're paving the way for some of these young guys. Brandon Ayuk, baby. 243 fantasy points. He missed week 3, averaged 16.2 fantasy points per game. I don't think with Deebo Samuel on the football team or Brandon Ayuk by himself, which is rumored that he's going to be traded because I think he contract. They can't pay 2 receivers top tier money. So
please send them to New England.
So the rumor is that he could be gone out of San Fran. We'll watch it this offseason. One of those guys that might get traded and everyone goes, whoa. But
oh my gosh,
he can't do any more than what he did this season with a team that he's on with Brandon Ayuk. I mean, with Deebo Samuel. Because like you looked at the early part of the season and like I saw Brandon Ayuk 32, and then he had 7, and he missed a game. And the 7 he had in week 2 was because he was hurt. Didn't play the whole game. But then he had 29, 11, 10, 15, and then Deebo started to go off, and it was like way more inconsistent. So I think he's really good, but he's better as like a wide receiver 2 or a first flex. And I think people are going to draft Ayuk this year, probably late second, early third. Somewhere in that vicinity. And if I had to choose between, like, if I'm with Rick, if I had to choose between Diggs and Ayuk, I mean, that's easy. That's a friggin' easy decision. Brandon Ayuk. No, I'm kidding. Stephon Diggs.
I was gonna say you just said that you didn't want to draft Diggs.
I don't want to draft Diggs, but like it would be an easy decision.
I agree with you, but his ceiling is capped. But I still think he's really good. And this year I feel like he took another step too. Like, he's just a very, very good receiver.
Yep.
And it's kind of, I remember the third round receivers this year was like at the top of the third round was Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, and Olave. And obviously Smith was okay, and Olave was decent, but and Higgins ended up failing because of without Burrow. But you had those three really good. I think that's going to be kind of Ayuk this year, and I would feel pretty comfortable taking him in that range. Because you draft him, he's going to be a good wide receiver too. I agree, he's not going to be wide receiver 1 for you. If he's your wide receiver 1, you're in trouble, I think. But as a wide receiver 2, as a second guy on your fantasy team, I'm a fan of Ayuk. I like it.
Yeah, I like Ayuk too. I just don't think he's like, we talked about those receivers: Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, no, he's not in that tier.
Puka. Like I don't think he's going to get to that tier. So he's just a really solid like second wide receiver if you're building a team in the draft, or a third wide receiver if you're making trades and stuff like that. All right, let's talk about some other guys quickly here because we got to end the show. But Michael Pittman.
Yeah.
Finally.
But he's an interesting one. I guess, when did Richardson get hurt? Was it week 4, week 5?
Yeah.
So he was doing good with Richardson. I was going to say he might be better with Minshew because of their play styles. Minshew's like going to just
he's kind
dump it off to the slot.
He was kind of in the same boat. It was like 23-13,
he was
4.
That's good.
Yeah, so he's good. I think there's something to build on there. He's kind of in the same conversation as Ayuk, obviously, finishing in the same range. But we'll see with Richardson. If Richardson comes back next year and he looks as good as he did in the early part of the season this year before he got hurt, I think Pittman could end up elevating a little bit more. And we already liked Pittman to be wide receiver. Honestly, he should have been a wide receiver 1, but he missed the whole game, which is something Devontae Adams did not do. He averaged 16.2. Adams averaged 15.6. So, like, Adams really should have been at wide receiver 13 behind Ayuk and Pittman. Which would put Pittman and Ayuk as top 12 wide receivers. But Debo finished as wide receiver 14 with 238. Devonta Smith, wide receiver 16 at 227. So that streak that we were talking about of receivers on the same team being wide receiver 1s, well, that didn't happen. See you later. Pumped it right into the sun.
San Fran almost did it.
Yes, they almost did it, and it would have been wide receiver 11 and 12. But anyway, Amari Cooper with 227. He has a fantastic season. 51
He
points
actually
in week 16.
Did better than I thought he would, especially when Watson went down.
Oh my God, he was the bust of the year for us.
Yeah.
To be fair,
what saved him was week 16, 51 points with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he's
without that game, he was like wide receiver 30.
Yeah, he would have dropped into at least the mid-20s.
I mean, where was that, week 16?
Yeah.
So through 15 weeks, Amari Cooper was wide receiver 27.
Yeah, so, I mean, we said that he was going to be a draft bust.
Yeah.
Okay, and 16 out of the 17 weeks, he was what, wide receiver 27 was what you said?
Yeah.
Last year's wide receiver 10. So it's a 17-spot drop. Is that a bust? Were you right?
I would say, yeah. He was what, a third,
Are we cherry
round
picking?
pick? No, I mean before this week.
Yeah.
This or last week or 2 weeks or whenever it was.
Right.
Before he had that 51-point game. I would say yes, but obviously he moved up 10 spots off one game, so
that's crazy. Nico Collins had 225. I think a full season.
Yeah, watch out for that, Nico.
Sorry, excuse me. Gee whiz. He missed 2 full games this year, and he's really explosive. I'm excited to see what he does with CJ Stroud in year 2. 225 fantasy points. DK Metcalf had 223. So he was good.
That's kind of where we thought.
Yeah, kind of where we thought he would end up.
Which is lower than consensus. Consensus had him at like wide receiver 14, 15.
Yeah, he is an interesting receiver though, because as he continues to have these like low end wide receiver 2 seasons, he's going to start getting drafted there, but he's extremely explosive. He's almost like a slightly better version of Mike Williams.
Yeah, I agree. He could be a sleeper. You got to. I don't know. We'll see where he ends up going. Quickly on Nico though, dude. He came out of nowhere. We kind of liked him as a flyer.
I told you
that dude. I love Nico Collins, bro.
Oh God,
he's gonna be on high on my board.
Oh boy.
Did you see the playoff game?
Do you know? It's not a
10
playoff
catches for 180.
Oh,
or it's week 18. Sorry, and a touchdown.
Yeah, the thing is I think Tank's better.
Yeah, that is true. I forgot
Tank's
about
better.
Tank Dell.
So I don't know.
Without Tank, if Tank wasn't there, he'd be top 10 for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tank Dell is going to be ridiculous. He's going to be one of my.
Tank Dell will definitely move him down.
All right, Chris Olave had 216. He was wide receiver 20. Rashee Rice in his rookie season with Patty Mahomes.
Hey, there you go. What was the top 24 finish for rookies? We got a rookie.
Hey. Oh my God, we don't have.
I don't think anyone expected it to be Rice, though.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. But looking in the early half of the season, this is one of the guys we kept on talking about over and over and over again. Pick him up on the waiver wire. Second half breakout. Second half breakout. Second half breakout. He had 11, 4, 10, 6, 13, 11, 17, 9, 9 before the bye. And then even after the bye in week 11, he had 8. From week 12 all the way to week 17. Ready for this? Ready for these numbers? Mm-hmm. Keep your pants on. Rashee Rice was wide receiver 4.
Woo!
So if he takes that and carries it into next season with, maybe top 5 greatest quarterback to ever live, he is going to be probably one of the smash and grab breakouts next year. Like he's going to be on. But this is we have the next show we're going to do is going to be top 5 guaranteed 100% predictions, and Rashee Rice might be on that show. So check it out.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm gonna write that in right now so that I actually have it. Something about Rashee Rice. Anyway, so yeah, he was really, really good. That is interesting. This year, I feel like the last couple of years we've gotten a rookie wide receiver in the
top 24.
At least in the top
if he wasn't
12.
there, because Zay Flowers is the next rookie, and he was wide receiver 25. So that's outside the. And Jordan Addison was wide receiver 27.
Funny thing is I don't think Zay, even though he did have a really good end of the season as well, I don't think Zay with Baltimore can get any better than what he is. Like, I think he can improve, but I don't think the volume will improve.
He can get a little better. I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver 1. So I agree, I kind of agree with you. I think he can get a little better because, it's just a rookie year type thing, but his ceiling is definitely capped with Baltimore.
All right, so just to wrap up the top 24, because I do like Jaden Reed at 28. That's an interesting guy. He did have a good end to the season as well.
I'm going to be on the Jaden Reed train too. Some big breakouts next year.
We like it with these young guys. George Pickens had 208 fantasy points. Boom or bust. This is a hyperbolic version of Mike Williams if we're going back to
kind of like Gabe Davis.
Kind of like Gabe Davis. Yeah, a little bit more like Gabe Davis. 23 Garrett Wilson. So he's still real good, but doesn't have a real good quarterback.
I'll be back on the Garrett Wilson train next year. I'm running back.
Why are we doing this? A 41-year-old quarterback who I absolutely love now based on what he's been saying on the Pat McAfee show. But he just tore his Achilles, and isn't he 40?
I would take one-legged Aaron Rodgers over Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian.
Yeah. I think the Jets win like 9 games next year, Max.
That's fine. That has nothing to do with Garrett Wilson. He had 160 targets this year. If he does that again next year, he's a top 10 receiver.
That's fair. And then Calvin Ridley, who I think was our biggest disappointment at wide receiver 24, 207 fantasy points. So he was very disappointing this year.
Still had his moments, though, but kind of like George Pickens, where he would have good games, really bad games, and was definitely disappointing for sure.
Yeah. All right, there you go. That is a recap of the wide receivers from the 2023 fantasy football season. Lots of interesting stuff. A lot of guys landing in different places. We got a lot of offseason to break down some of these freaking wide receivers and what's going to happen with them. Be sure to check out Thursday's episode. We'll talk to you later, guys.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.